My name is Matt Studney. I work at MSD, and I lead our information technology organization for MSD Research Laboratories, where we partner with our research organization all the way from discovering targets to building composition of matter, so small molecules, peptides, vaccines, biologics, to impact disease. And then we work to make sure that they're safe and through preclinical testing and then clinical testing, and ultimately to get us to the market and to sustain it on the market, which is a lot of work too, which a lot of people don't appreciate. So we cover that whole spectrum.
Love it. And people like to put things in buckets in this world of healthcare technology, and sometimes we look like a company like MSD. Do you think of like what you do as biotech, health tech, med tech? Does it matter tech? Like what's the and I guess that ties that into like what brings you to HIMSS Europe, or a lot of conversations around that digital space. So
all types of tech, no matter what, and we sometimes act like a biotech, sometimes like a pharma tech, sometimes like a pharma company, where technology is actually not appropriate or necessary. But we look for opportunities and make sure that there's value, and we make sure we test that value. And I shared earlier in my presentation that we look at things like, can we impact probability of success? Just a slight increase in probability of success for something to work and to be safer is huge for us. Or cut cycle time, faster access to patients, or create a better user experience for our employee base, which can create capacity in some cases. And we have to remember making sure everything works. So reliability is really important. Yeah. If you build a great solution, but it's down half the time, that's a problem.
Yeah. And is a lot of your time spent in like the, there's a different stages and progression of drugs or interventions and solutions in healthcare. Are you spending a lot of time in the R&D phase to be able to get things into trial? Like, talk me through what that life cycle is like.
Yeah, in the early space, that's where we have our laboratories, and we're doing a lot of experiments, high throughput experiments in some cases, in other cases just a single experiment where you're trying to uncover something about a particular disease at the cell level. So a whole range of stuff in the early space where technology can be applied in many different ways. And there's less regulation in that space, which gives us more freedom to operate. As you move forward and closer to patients, the regulations increase. So we have to make sure that everything is really robust from an operational safety, integrity, ethics perspective. And so as we move through the continuum, we eventually get into animal testing, and we get into pilot plant scale. So how do you go from making a few grams to a few kilograms to lots of kilograms, and ultimately partner with our manufacturing organization. And throughout that whole time frame, we're trying to get these drugs to a go, no-go decision. So a no-go is fine, because then you free up capacity to do something else. But a go decision is great, and then we execute the clinical trials, small scale to medium scale to large scale.
Yeah, interesting. And so you mentioned you're up on stage. I think you're fresh off the stage. What were you sharing with delegates here at HIMSS Europe?
We shared our high-level mission and vision, and then dug into the clinical space, because that's an area that we are in the middle. Actually, let's say we're 2/3 of the way through, or even further, rebuilding the whole experience of a clinical trial. So how do we write a protocol? How do we start up a site? How do we build the databases that we need to collect the data? How do we integrate that with external data like lab data or imaging data, and executing that in a more efficient way for our sites that we work with? We have 20,000 plus study site combinations that we work with. So it's not just internal stakeholders, it's the external stakeholders that we work with who are finding the patients with us, executing the trial, collecting the data, managing the data, and then we're ultimately analyzing the data. So that whole end-to-end ecosystem we're rebuilding in a modern, reliable way.
And here at HIMSS Europe, it's interesting seeing delegates from all different parts of the region and the world too. MSD obviously being global as well. Are there particular nuances or something unique about the European region in the work that you do, or is it quite consistent globally?
It's consistent globally. We have clinical trials running in over 60 countries, I believe, and we sell our products in more than that. And so I think the EU is a very important place where we do a lot of different work, and just another way to get our work out there.
Yeah. And lastly, what would you hope that participants who were who checked out your session, what would you hope that those participants walk away with?
Well, I think a couple people in the audience were in our industry, and they're interested in leveraging some of the solutions that we're building that will be products that Amazon Web Services is building with us. And so they showed some interest in learning more about that, which in some cases we love to do things internally in an innovative way, and we keep them to ourselves to give us a competitive advantage. And in other cases, the industry can benefit if we are all using solutions that can get better if more people participate and leverage those products. So there was a lot of interest within industry, and then broader interest in the modernization approach that we're taking in terms of best of breed to platform solutions and who we work with, small companies and large.